Pumpkin spice wine is weird. Give me pumpkin spice latte any day. Pumpkin spice wine is a bit much. Hello, my fellow bookish witches. Welcome to Witchy Reads. Today, I want to get into the holiday spirit by doing the Count Your Blessings book tag. But before we do that, please make sure to like this video, and if the holiday spirit moves you, please subscribe to my channel. I came across this book tag in a recommended video by YouTube from book lover Amanda. I thought it was such a cute idea for the holidays, especially with Turkey Day right around the corner. So I figured, why not? I wanted to go ahead and do something like cute, cozy for the holidays. I have some very cool wine that I'm going to drink while I do this. It is Witch's Brew Pumpkin Spice. It's apple wine, I guess, with some spices. We're gonna drink that I'm gonna drink it while I do this book tag. Cheers. Happy holidays. This is an interesting tasting wine. Onto the book tag. There are 6 questions and I'm excited to get into them. The first question, I guess, really isn't a question. It just says, count them one by one. Go ahead, try to count them all. That is counting all of the books on my shelf. I did that a little bit earlier, so let's go to the footage for that. I honestly thought counting them would be easy because I really don't consider my collection to be that vast compared to other booktubers and readers, but there are quite a few, so we're gonna see if I can do this. I am currently at 100, so I am going to guess that I have maybe 250, 300. We'll see. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, just hit 200 at this book. Let's keep going. I think I'm pretty close. Total count 303, and this includes the Boy Wizard series that I no longer keep on my shelf, but it also doesn't include the kids books that I have stored on my shelf for my toddler that will eventually be his, and it also doesn't include the box that I am separating that I plan to donate at some point. So I think all in all, if I were to add all of those books, I would guesstimate about 325. So close to 350. That was pretty accurate, I feel like. I feel like I called it as far as how many books I have. I actually am quite impressed with myself that I guessed correctly, or at least somewhat correctly, on how many books I have on my shelf, so go me. Question number 2. Life-changing books. What are some books that changed you or profoundly impacted you in a positive way? I have 3, and we're going to go through each one. The first one, for sure, is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chobsky. This book was so profound for me. My freshman year of high school is when I read it. I think this is the book on my shelf that I have reread the most, and each time I get the same flood of emotions in reading it. It is such a well-crafted, emotional story. I absolutely adore it. I even really love the movie adaptation that came out a couple years or a few years back. This book just has such a deep place in my heart, to the point where I have recommended this book to many people as well, and actually have let people borrow my copy. Usually I don't let people borrow my books, but with this one, I am fully willing to replace it if I never get it back from the person I've let borrow. I believe this isn't even my original copy. I'm sure I have replaced it down the line. If you haven't read this book, highly, highly recommend. It is life-changing. The other book that I have is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I read this book when I was a little bit older in high school, and I feel like it changed my brain chemistry as far as what can be expected from a love story. I adore it. And again, I have reread it many, many times, and I will continue to do so if I don't have other books that I am reading. It's a great story, and I love Jane Austen. This is my #1 book of hers. And if you are curious, I love the adaptations, but my favorite is the 2005 one with Keira Knightley. Sorry! I know Colin Firth, that lake scene, but I gotta give it to the '05 adaptation. It's beautiful. The hand flex. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. The other book is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This was the first book I read that legitimately made me laugh out loud. I loved the characters. I loved the lore in the story. It is such a phenomenal book. And again, if you have not read it, highly, highly recommend. Question number 3, special editions. What are some editions and copies that you really love? First editions, special editions, cloth, hardback, leatherbound, signed, etc. Or is there a book that is very valuable to you for sentimental reasons? One of the books that meant so much to me was actually Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And the reason for this is because it was the first book that I got to go to the midnight release for. I begged my father to take me. He did not understand his book-obsessed daughter, why she wanted to do this, but nonetheless, he agreed. He took me. I fell asleep reading this book, and I woke up the next morning with an inscription from my father talking about how much this book meant to me and how much I mean to him, and that's why the book is important to him as well. And he will always forever cherish the memory of us going at midnight to, I believe it was Borders, just to give you an idea of how long ago this was, and getting that book. Unfortunately, that book was destroyed in an accident, and I don't have it anymore. I don't want to cry. I don't have it anymore, but I will always remember the inscription that my dad put in that book, and it means a lot to me. So sentimental, definitely that. Another book I have that is special for me is Eldest by Christopher Paolini. And I know this may seem weird. It is the second in the series. There are quite a few people in the bookish community who aren't big fans of his books, but I remember when his books came out, I just needed something to occupy my time waiting for the next boy wizard book. It was the Inheritance series, so that's where we're at. At the time that this book came out, Christopher Paolini was doing a book tour, and unfortunately he wasn't coming to where I lived, but he was going to where my cousin lived. I coordinated with her to ship her my book to have him sign, and then she shipped it back to me. She is an all-star MVP for doing that. To wait in line with crazy fans for a book that you don't even care about is incredible, and I love, love, love her dearly for doing that for me. And I have it signed by Christopher Paolini. So I didn't get to meet him, but I do have a signed copy of Eldest, thanks to my amazing cousin. Question 4. Gifted books. Books you love that others have gifted to you. This may seem strange, but I looked at my shelf, and for the life of me, either I can't remember or legitimately, no one has really gifted me a book before. Now, for example, like with that Harry Potter book, my father obviously paid for that book for me. That obviously meant a lot to me. But in terms of like packaging and wrapping and giving as a gift, that, as far as I can remember, never has happened in my life, which may seem sad. I'm okay. It's fine. So instead, what I thought I would do is provide basically book recommendations from people that I then went and purchased the book myself because they made it seem incredible. The first is Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. Don't worry, I did buy this used when I purchased it. My best friend in the whole wide world, this is his favorite book, and he highly recommended it. I mean, he recommends the entire series, to be honest, but especially this one. And I believe at the time he was in my book club and chose this for book club. But even before that, I believe I had purchased it because he had recommended it so hard. To this day is one of my favorite sci-fi books. It was the introduction to sci-fi, if I'm being honest, as far as the written word. So I really appreciate that and definitely love this book. I really enjoyed the movie adaptation, especially the choreographed battle scenes in like the arena. oh my God, like that's what I wanted to see, and I was not disappointed at all. The other book that was recommended to me is Stardust by Neil Gaiman, and not just any copy of Stardust, but this, the graphic novel. It was recommended by a coworker that I used to work with years ago. She had purchased the graphic novel and brought it into work to read, and when she finished it, she allowed me to borrow it. I just fell in love with the story. The pictures, it's this book is beautiful. It is so beautiful. And of course the story is incredible, and Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors. So it really was a no-brainer in terms of purchasing it. And I'm very, very happy that she was willing to let me borrow it and get to experience that. And now I have my own copy. So that's great. Question number 5, the blessings of a book. How has reading benefited you in your life? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Reading for me has always been a huge part of who I am, how I interact with others as well. For me, it has been a way to hyper-focus on a story and get transported and taken away. I've been recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I realized that that probably is why I would get hyper-focused on certain stories and certain characters. So it's nice to know that now. It provided an amazing feeling of being elsewhere, being somewhere better than the real world. And just like the question said, it definitely is a spiritual experience for me. I'm not a religious person, but definitely I am a spiritual person. I definitely get that spiritual fulfillment from reading a really good story. Last question, question 6. Friends, the greatest blessing. Do you have in real life friends that love to talk books with you? Give them a shout out. I know I've mentioned it a few times on my channel that I am part of a book club. I don't think I've mentioned that this book club was conceived over a decade ago. All of the women who are in the book club are dear, dear friends of mine whom I've known for a very long time. I appreciate every single one of them. Their brilliance, their personalities, their love of books, their kindness. It means the world to me that they are, to this day, still willing to be a part of this book club, to meet once a month to discuss books. It provides such a loving experience. It is so nice to be able to speak with kindred spirits about books, and they provide that for me. I cannot thank them enough for being the wonderful women that they are. I don't feel comfortable really naming their names simply because none of them are really on YouTube, so there's really no shout out to give. They all know that I love them, and I will reiterate again, I love you all. You are amazing. Thank you for being my friend and for being a part of that book club. That was the Count Your Blessings book tag. I hope you had fun, and hey, if you feel like you want to do this book tag, please do. I actually think it's a very cute book tag. It definitely makes you think outside the box in terms of your book collection and what books mean to you. And I think that's really fun. I'm gonna go ahead and tag some booktubers who I think would enjoy this. No pressure, no need to do it, but I definitely think it is a cute book tag to do, so I want to share the blessings, as it were. Until next time, this is Witchy Reads, saying blessed be to the bookish community. I didn't drink once during that whole thing, and the whole point of pouring the wine was that I was gonna drink it,